Hi, this is Dee-Dee Devon from Divine Intervention Lifestyle and Nutrition Health Coaching. Today I'm wearing a slightly bold, bright shirt because today's topic is kind of a heavy one. And I'm going to be talking about forgiveness. And a pop of color just gives me a little bit of hopefulness and a place of recovering from a place of guilt or shame, and is to have some optimism to restore your faith that things do bloom again, change, grow, and glow like my stars. So, as we approach this topic of forgiveness, what to do when you can't stop beating yourself up? First of all, it's important to know that we all do it and you're not alone. I'm the worst. You're likely to feel a whole range of emotions in this conversation, but we'll be in it together. It's January and we're all ready for a fresh start. But are you really ready for a fresh start? Here's the thing. You've got to clean house first. It's like buying new furniture. You clean out the old furniture to make way for the new. You don't buy a new couch and put it on top of your old couch like some sort of double-decker thing. So today, we're going to take a look at what is taking up too much space in your being, and we're going to pull out the old metaphorical vacuum, and we're going to clean up all those self-loathing dust bunnies, okay? How does that sound to you? Why this topic? Well, one of my greatest lessons is that where pain lives is an entry point. Where pain lives is an entry point. Underneath resentment, anger, and self-blame is a radiance waiting to be freed. And I'll say that again. Underneath resentment, anger, and self-blame is a radiance waiting to be freed. And that's what I want to be a stand for with you today. Let's talk about pressure. So much pressure to get things just right over the next 12 months, including whatever goals you may have set for yourself. A lot of that pressure you may be feeling comes from self-blame. You don't want to fail, and you blame yourself when you do. So here's a little truth that I've discovered. Self-blame will kill your sparkle. So today, I want to talk about how to stop hating yourself and start forgiving. I'm not going to ask you to forgive someone else today. What I want to offer you is a conversation about reclaiming your own power through self-forgiveness. So, what is forgiveness? The definition of forgiveness is to give up the desire to punish. To give up the desire to punish. To give up indulging resentment, right? It's like the silent seething on the inside, toxic. Resentment actually means to take ill. So we're taking ill on the inside with resentment and self-blame. To forgive is peace with what is, what was, and what will be. Okay, so you've got the definition of forgiveness. Now, we all have a context for that. Now, how does lack of forgiveness live in us? It lives in us in self-hatred, hating this body for its limitations, hating ourselves for what seems like ugliness, hating ourselves for disappointing someone else, hating ourselves for being selfish and mean and catty, damaged goods, a bad seed. And instead of really looking at it, we try to escape it, fix it, circling it, dramatizing it, and letting it stop us from radiating our awesomeness. And really, what's underneath is that we don't trust ourselves. We want to escape ourselves. We start comparing. Are there any comparers out there? What kind of context do you compare yourself? Like you compare yourself to someone else when or about? What do you compare yourself about to other people? So when we start comparing, it's actually really dangerous and abusive. So consider this. Comparison is an act of violence against the self. Comparison is an act of violence against the self. What do you think of that? How does lack of self-forgiveness currently paralyze you? That's a juicy question. How does lack of self-forgiveness currently paralyze you? As you scan your day, can you notice the impulse to judge yourself? The other problem with blaming yourself is that we tend to spend so much time and energy beating ourselves up over something that is already done, right? It's crazy making. It's like we're a broken record. Even your friends can't stand listening to you cut yourself down anymore, but you can't seem to stop. Why? Because self-blame has become a habit. And what you practice, you get really good at. So, what are you practicing? If you're practicing self-blame, you're going to be really good at self-blame. There's other options of what you could be practicing, but if you're practicing self-blame, it's like you're going to become an expert at it. So, I'm going to talk about how to turn this around, and the first step is to recognize that self-blame has become a habit. It's not who you are, it's simply become a habit. So, what if, for just a moment, you were to give up that enterprise and forgive yourself for wanting what you want? Let's just sit with that one for a moment. What if, just for a moment, you were to forgive yourself for wanting what you want? Forgiveness is a voluntary and intentional process. It's standing in the truth of who you are, which at your core is love. So what's the price we pay when we choose not to forgive? We victimize ourselves. Now, is it worth our life's energy? No effing way. So would it kill you to shift the self-abuse? Because frankly, lack of self-forgiveness is self-abuse. Can we get an agreement on that? And the abuse must stop. If we're to go forward, so would it kill you to shift the self-abuse and apply tenderness with yourself? So would it kill you to shift the self-abuse and apply tenderness with yourself? 2018, and I'm just going to proclaim it right now, is going to be all about how we are living and loving and forgiving. I dare you to check your blame and shame at the door and say no more. Shame is no longer for me, and maybe the rest of the world is still wallowing in their guilt and shame. But somebody has to go first to break the cycle. And as a health coach, that is my task, and I ask you to make it your task as well. Let's all take a breath. Take a breath and say this out loud to yourself. Tenderness is always just a breath away. Let's breathe. How does that feel? Tenderness is always just a breath away. Say that out loud to yourself so you can actually hear your own voice reminding you that tenderness is always just a breath away. So when I hear that, it's like all of a sudden I can sense the willingness to loosen the emotional scar tissue that would let my radiance flow again. Tenderness is always just a breath away. Tenderness and forgiveness are faithful companions. So let's talk a little further about self-forgiveness. Consider this fundamental truth of being human. It's really simple, okay? Nobody is immune to making mistakes. True or false? Nobody is immune to making mistakes. True or false? Yeah, true, right? Have you ever met someone that is immune to making mistakes? Now, forgiveness follows compassion. This is really the only way to be human. Forgiveness follows compassion. So ask yourself, how can I be more loving to myself right now? This is so important. Ask yourself right now, how can I be more loving to myself? And trust your answer. Dig in. Be honest. Even if you think it's something that you don't get to have, you don't deserve to have, you're not worthy of. Go ahead and type something in the comments below about how can I love myself, be more loving to myself, even just a little bit more today. Little things. What's one little thing that you can do to be more loving to yourself today? You know, when you do this, you're really doing it for the planet. A very wise woman recently reminded me that when I do this for myself, a woman crying on the bathroom floor gets up. When it's done for one, it's done for all. And isn't that what humanity desperately needs right now? Forgiveness, tenderness, loving yourself enough to offer yourself a million more tries. Instead of agonizing over what you did or didn't do, what you said or should have said, or feeling bad about what you decided or decided against, this is how you break the self-blame habit, by introducing a different and healthy habit. So, every time you feel yourself going into the grips of self-blame talk, see the impulse to judge yourself, take a deep breath, and trade in judgment for compassionate awareness. Now, how do you do that? Do this with me now. So here comes the self-blame. You're lazy, you're fat, you're stupid, you're ugly, whatever it is. Go, I'm aware that I'm learning. So you trade in judgment for I'm aware that, and notice how it softens the judgment. I'm aware that I feel kind of heavy today. I'm aware that I chose foods that were not so good for my belly. I wonder what sort of awesomeness I'm discovering about myself. I'm aware that I made a choice that I wish I didn't make. I wonder, what am I learning from this? Now, some people don't realize that it is possible to stop blaming yourself, to stop hating on yourself, to stop beating yourself up. It's sort of like crying. You think you're going to cry a river, and then eventually you stop. And then you're at peace, and you're calm. It's possible to stop the self-hatred. Whether you're ready or not is not for me to say, but I'm just pointing out that it is possible. If we tell ourselves that it's not possible, then that will be true. So, can we accept imperfection just as it is? Just simply imperfection. It's just that thing called imperfection. So, just notice that it is possible to stop that self-loathing, that blame, that hatred, that resentment. We can choose to stop. Now again, I'm not saying that you should start feeling bad about how you haven't forgiven yourself faster or something like that, or the time that you wasted being victimized and debilitated and paralyzed by your shame and guilt for choices you made in the past. It's like, ugh, then again, we're just shitting all over ourselves. And that's not what I'm here to talk about with you today. And I'm not here to rush the process. If you're not ready to forgive yourself, then it might have something still to teach you. But simultaneously, let us notice on the menu of choices available that it is possible. It's a possibility to stop. We can choose to stop. Namaste.